Hi, I'm Bob,
And I'm Sherry.
and this is Mostly Politics with Bob and Sherry.
Today we're interviewing Amanda France, who is running as a committeewoman at the local Shaler Republican Committee. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi guys, thank you for having me here.
Amanda, tell us a little bit about yourself and what motivated you want to get involved in politics.
Well, we have been living here for almost 9 years now, and I was never a political person. I never got involved. It just wasn't my thing. But when my kids started to go to school and the politics really started to affect our family, that's when my heart said, you need to move forward with making decisions and being productive in the community and getting our values out there. So that's kind of what made me push into getting into politics. But about me, I have three boys, 8, 6, and 3. A amazing, incredible husband who owns his own business, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've worked part-time physical therapy assistant. I've coached gymnastics, and being a stay-at-home mom is definitely the hardest and the most rewarding. So I absolutely love it, and health and wellness is my jam, and I love to empower people through health and wellness as well.
You are very young, stay-home mom, and how do you plan to motivate people your age to get more involved in politics? Because most people your age tend to just live their lives. How do you plan on doing that?
Exactly. And I was that person who just lived my life and just did not care about politics. And again, because my children got into school, there was no way of avoiding it anymore. So you have to. I do believe politics is a reflection of your own values and beliefs, and it's your identity as a person. So when my kids went to school, we would have conversations with our kids' friends, and a lot of us would have the same conversations and the same opinions and values. However, nothing was being done with those values if we were just sitting around talking one evening at somebody's house. So I do think that with me, by stepping up into this role and this position, I'll be able to help recruit people and enlarge the community and encourage people to start using their voice and putting it where it matters and where they want it to be.
What are some of the things you were hearing from your kids and how they conflict with your values? What are some of your values and what are some of the conflicts?
Right now, my kids go to an incredible school, and I love what they're doing with this school. However, they're just at the first beginning level school. So, and I know that the upper level schools are doing something different. And so I just didn't want my kids to and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but I didn't want them to be programmed into believing something that our family does not align with value-wise. So some of the things that I've been hearing that are not the way that our family aligns with is like CRT in the classroom at the high school level or even at the middle school level. And that I'm don't promote that at all, and I don't believe in that. And then also like gender roles, like there is male and female and there is no in between. And my kids and I are all happy, and if you love who you want to love, nobody says you can't do that. But being able to think that you can change your actual sex that you were born with is not okay with us.
And you think that would be harmful to your kids to teach them things like that?
I do. I do think that it would be a negative programming from a beginning stage of their life when they're children, when they're vulnerable to picking up those beliefs. Because that's where I picked up my beliefs was as a kid, and whatever my parents did politically is what I grew up doing. So it made sense. It makes sense that whatever your kids are learning now is what they're going to believe in later on in life. And I'm going to put a stop to that if it's not something that we agree with or, is our values.
So I have a question. You have very young children. They're elementary school age. And you notice that in programming like cartoons with Disney, they start to incorporate a lot of those messaging on gender identities and into a program that shows very, very young children. As a mom, how do you deal with that?
Okay, so I can't agree with this, and my children have seen TV shows and cartoons where this is happening. Also, with a lot of evil things going on as well. And honestly, I am very, very open with my children, and it's you want to dumb it down for them enough where they understand it, but then you also want to allow them to have the ability to ask questions and to promote ask for them to ask questions. So we teach, like, you are born, God made you a woman or a male, and there is no in between. Again, we support anyone who loves whoever they want to love, and that is something that we teach our children too. Like, this is what some people decide they want to do, but you can't switch your DNA. So that, I mean, that is clear as day, and you could tell that to a 5-year-old. They'll understand it.
So you say you support people loving whoever they want to love. What if somebody who's born male, biologically male, and decides that they want to live out as a female? So, an adult person with, they want to dress that way, whatever they want to do to themselves.
Right.
Do you have a problem with that?
So I think when you get to an age where you can, fully want to do that, then that is fine, but you cannot push that on anybody else. You cannot push those into our children, that programming or that idea onto children to think that everyone can do that. If that's what God calls you to do and you want to do that, then that's fine. You have your community of support, and I mean, hey, I support you too, but I'm not going to allow my children to think that they can do that too. Even if, like, because I was a tomboy. I loved hanging out. Like, I played with tag and ran with the boys at recess all the time. I did not play with Barbies so much. I did not, paint my nails when I was little. Like, I was hanging with the boys, and it didn't make me want to change my DNA. That's just how I was, and it's made me stronger for who I am today. So.
What are some action plans you have if you get elected as a committee woman in your local party committee?
So my role would to be encourage people to really just kind of step up their voices and make them heard, to recruit more people into the Republican Committee of Shaler, and to, just enlarge the group, to make them want to attend meetings, to be informed, and to support and endorse the Republican committee members and the political candidates as well.
Have you always been a Republican?
I have not always been a Republican. So, like I said earlier, programming is a huge thing, and, like, where do we get our beliefs from? And they are from when you were little. So when I was little, I was always told that we are Democrats and that we vote Democrat, and I never looked outside of what my mom and dad and my grandma and grandpa voted. I never did. So that's how I voted all the way up until a couple years ago. And I would have conversations with people, and I just couldn't understand where they were coming from. And this is because of, again, the programming and beliefs that I had from even, like, media sources. So the big media, TV programs, and all of that, CNN, ABC, NBC, all of those programs, they know what they're doing, and they play on your emotions so that you're reassured that your emotions are valid, your beliefs are valid. But nobody made me stop and question it. And I do have to say that my husband was the one who made me stop and question it. So, like, when do we have a conversation with, someone who has opposing views? And I was open enough to understand where he was coming from. And then when we broke it down, I get it. I was like, wow, that really makes sense. And, now I totally understand where you're coming from. So you do have to have, like, an open mind and an open heart to have those conversations with other people with opposing views. But again, your political views reflect your personal values and your identity as a person. And so I had these values, but they were no longer aligning with the Democrat side. So it made me really open up my mind that, you know what, I do align more with the Republican side.
So your husband was already a Republican?
Yes.
Okay.
And on,
And then he convinced you that you were a Republican as well?
well, conservative, yes.
Conservative. Okay.
He didn't vote. Like, he wasn't one to go vote. So, like, political conversations were never really a thing in our household. We just kind of like brushed it off until our children started to go to school, until, you know, all of this kind of happened a few years ago when you kind of had to be involved. You kind of had to put your foot down on what your values are and not compromise on them. So,
What was the timing of this? What was was it around the time that COVID started
yes.
that you had this awareness?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us what COVID was like, for you and your family, with everything closed and
Um,
the schools, business?
It was definitely tough. I mean, we live in a tiny house on a busy street, and we have three wild boys, and I like to compare them to three giant dogs that need to just run around and play and get their energy out. So, yeah, it was tough to be bundled up in our household, to be frantically cleaning everything all the time just wasn't sustainable. It didn't make sense after a while. But I mean, just like everybody else, we didn't know what was going on, so we just kind of rolled with what we were being told on media sources. And then once other opinions came out, then it started to make sense that there was other information out there that wasn't being heard. And so, of course, being open-minded enough, we checked it out and understood that there was more to the story than what we were being told, and that there is an agenda at play here.
What was a challenge for you, being had to keep your three boys at home, and then also you probably had to homeschool them for a little while? What was the challenge for you and for your children?
Yeah, so the homeschooling with being in school. So when they had their school iPads and they were homeschooled with us as the teacher, but getting instruction from the teachers, that was extremely difficult. It wasn't sustainable. It was basically a hot mess, is how I could describe it. My kids were not. Their attention span was not, on the computer. It just wasn't happening. So especially my preschooler, that was a joke. And so I kind of decided that was not for us anymore. And then for my elementary school, I mean, he did it. He made it through. We made it through. But then when I decided to homeschool this current year, in the beginning of the year, when they decided to put the mask back on, my husband was like, Amanda, homeschool was not good, last year. So what makes you think you could be a homeschool mom? And I'm like, first of all, what I would do with my kids is not what they did. So their way of schooling, or, just doing school from home, is not the same as homeschooling. And so,
Yeah, remote
yeah,
learning.
remote learning. Yeah, it's not the same as actual homeschooling. And my husband didn't understand that right away. And once he did understand, I was going to take reign and just solely educate them myself, one on one. And then he understood that he gets it. Like, it's different.
So the mask mandate was a deal breaker for you.
It was. Because I stand firmly, and again, I do not compromise in my values. And my kids also did not want to wear the masks, and we were maskless for how many months before they went back to school, and it just didn't make sense to put them back in masks. It didn't make sense to us, and I'm all for breathing freely. We have a nose and a mouth that does not need to be covered. So, I was not going to compromise on that issue.
And did your family experience COVID? Did you guys get COVID? And if you did, what was that like?
We have, I've tested once for COVID, but that not with no signs or symptoms. I did that for my job that I didn't even go back to work for. So I only tested one time, and my 6-year-old tested one time because he was sick and he needed to be tested to go back into baseball. He was negative. That was the only 2 times that we did test ourselves, and we have not tested ourselves since then. So if you ask me if our family caught COVID, I don't know. I don't know.
No serious illness that
No,
seemed different than.
nothing that we couldn't make it through on our own without home care. And, supplementing and doing the things that keep us healthy, which is exercise, sunlight, being outside, eating whole foods. So I have my 3-year-old right here, and he's coming. You'll get to see him and meet him.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
But yeah,
So now, are your children in school now?
yes. So I did put them back into school once they removed the mask mandate. And it was a conversation for us. Do you guys want to go back to school? And they wanted to be with their friends, which I fully supported. So if they want to be with their friends and they say
Hi.
hi, Clay. I fully
Scared them away.
them wanting to go back once the masks were over with. And honestly, they went back like flawlessly. There was no issues. Their education was right where it needed to be, and I was so proud of them.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider running for school board?
It's possible in the future. Right now, maybe not until, maybe he's in school where I have a little bit more time to put towards, those things. But I mean, in the future, yes. Right now, no.
Is your husband supportive of you getting involved running for committee woman?
He is very busy himself, so I kind of just do what my heart is calling me to do without asking permission from him to do it. But yes, he is.
Now you talked about your focus is on health and fitness, and we know that a lot of American population are not healthy, at all. So tell us a little bit about your journey on the health and fitness end.
Okay, well, okay, let's go back to the way beginning. When I was a kid, my nutrition was terrible. I was an athlete, I was a gymnast, and I was actually gratefully not injured. I was never injured, but my diet was terrible. I would eat lunch meat and macaroni and cheese and literally bologna and cheese, ho-hos, Pepsi, you name it. Anything a kid would like eat, I ate. And then as I went into my college years, my friends tried to expand my palate and hand me a salad or hand me something that I've never tried before. But I was that kid that was the pickiest eater. I looked at the food and I said, no way, I'm not going to like that. Which, by the way, karma comes back around, and I have an 8-year-old who's exactly like that. But yeah, so once I understood that food is fuel and not something just to fill your belly up with because you're hungry, then I understood, okay, we really need to change our mindset on food. I do believe now food is medicine, and vegetables is definitely my favorite thing now, and I wouldn't even eat it when I was little. So I've actually come a very, very long way in my health journey. And when I started to believe food is medicine is when I was pregnant with my first kid. And that's I'm not just feeding my body, I'm feeding another baby. So that's when I got serious about my nutrition back in 2013. And ever since then, it's just been a journey of finding out what is the healthiest thing for us as, people, human beings. And there's a lot of toxicity out there in our food right now that is causing chronic disease and illnesses. So
Were you an athlete in college, and were your friends who influenced you athletes?
yes, so I was a collegiate gymnast, and I competed all 4 years. My friends, they tried to get me into eating more whole foods, more healthy foods, but it was really just me that got me into nutrition more so. And that's again when I was pregnant with my first kid is when I really got into, all right, let's start choosing better foods. And then once you go down the rabbit hole of healthy living, it's almost endless. So, and you got to start somewhere.
You've signed up for Ms. health and fitness competition. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, okay. Well, I saw an ad pop up on Facebook or Instagram, one of them, and I was like, maybe I could do this. So I looked into it. Registration was free. I signed up as registration. I didn't put in any photos. And then I got a text message like a week later, and it says, "Hey, we have your registration, but no photos." So then I was like, "Oh man, this must be a sign saying I should do this." So then I submitted the photos, thinking nothing of it. A couple hours later, they said they hand selected me to be in the competition, and I was like, "Okay, should I do this?" So then I was just, waiting a couple more days. The next, actually, this is yesterday morning. I signed up for Ed Milet's automated text messages, and it was basically saying, when was the last time you tried something new, and how healthy it is to, get out of your comfort zone and to try something new. And I took that as a message to just go for it. So I went for it. I finished my profile, and now it's up and running, and you're able to vote.
So is there a simple URL that you could?
There is, yes, yeah. I could send that to you.
Okay. So people can go on to the webpage, look at your photos, and then vote for you for Ms. Health and
Yes,
Fitness?
yes. And then for
Okay.
bio and little questions and answers in there as well.
Okay. Now, I looked at your pictures. You're very fit. I mean, what's your body fat percentage? Do you
Oh,
know?
I can measure that at the
No,
and
it's okay. I just wanted to make the point that you look very
thank you.
fit, and I wanted to lead that to another question quickly about the transgender athletes. You seem very fit, very strong, very healthy. Um, how do you feel about the issue with biological men competing as trans women?
It's 1000% not fair. If you and my husband is 6'6", I am 5'1", and I consider myself very fit and strong. And if I did anything against my husband, I would lose in a second. There's just no way I would compare. And so putting a male in a female sport is just not fair. Like it doesn't make sense. It's not fair. So, and I don't know. If you want to be an athlete, then go be an athlete as a male and dress the way you want to dress.
Okay. Hey, last question then. Do you have any moral, philosophical belief system, like kind of a worldview, set of values thing that drives you?
Honestly, I've always been very intuitive, and I'm not super religious, but I've been very spiritual, and with my connection to the universe, to God, to source, to whatever you want to call it. But I've always had a strong intuition as to where it leads me in life and what kind of decisions that I make. So I try to really listen to that. And that is something that I think all of us have. And sometimes we don't listen to it because programming of beliefs that what we have when we were children. So that I love being able to listen to your inner child, your inner being.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
It's calling you.
And what is yes? And
That's
what
your
is
outer child.
what is your little boy's name?
This is Croix France, Croix.
Hi, Croix. Okay. Thank you so much again, Amanda.
You're so welcome. Thank you guys for having me.